Hello, welcome back to We Were Gamers. It's episode 7. JJ, we haven't really told people what we're doing in a long time. I think we kind of glossed over it the first couple episodes, but in case you missed it, why are we here, JJ?
We are here because you and I both used to be sort of hardcore gamers, right? We used to play all the time as much as we could. And now we've kind of grown up a little bit. A lot of it. And now we try to still play games. And then we need an excuse to talk with each other in our busy lives, and this is a really great excuse for that.
Exactly. Last week we talked about being a lot of different types of gamers. And it was kind of funny that we mentioned we're both kind of, if we do play games still, it's on the PC. The big news last week was E3. I know we're not really a news show, but did you find anything that was worth your time?
You know, I saw I think we talked a little bit about it, the Zelda stuff.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks really cool, man. I would be very excited to play that whenever it comes out. Who knows when that will be?
2017 Nintendo time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for those of you that missed it, the new Zelda game is coming out. They're going to split, I guess, probably between the next console and the current console. And it looks kind of like an open world game, like, I don't know, Skyrim or something else like that, but Zelda-fied.
Yeah. I'm excited. They showed apparently mostly only the open world stuff, so none of the thing that you think of mostly as Zelda, which is going through the dungeons, using your items and that kind of stuff. So it seems like it's going to be a little different. But the video of it that I got to watch, they walked into a cold area, and you have like a temperature gauge, and you start losing hearts because you're cold. And then they went in and changed the tunic Link was wearing, right? Because they just have, they have an inventory screen, and you just like equipped a different one. It straight up had like cold resistance on it. So you could go into colder places because it was a thicker tunic.
Well, it's good. It seems like they kind of kept the Zeldification of things where you got to switch your tunics and you got to have your different types of bombs. I don't know if you saw, but they have like square bombs and round bombs this time.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's cool.
Oh, yeah. So if you don't want your bomb to roll, you have a square bomb. And if you want your bomb to roll, you can kind of like roll it down hills if you use the round bomb.
Awesome. I saw a guy using a paddle or something to create wind and blow smoke from a fire out onto the grass and like kind of burn part of the section that had enemies in it, so they all caught on fire. That was pretty cool.
They showed a dungeon. It was kind of like a little puzzle dungeon. It wasn't very hard, but you got a stop time kind of power, but only for an object. So you could like stop time on an object and then build up momentum on it. So let's say you cast it on a boulder and then you hit the boulder with a hammer like 50 times. And then the boulder, once the stop time effect ends, goes skyrocketing into the air.
Oh, that's cool. There's probably a lot of fun stuff you can get up to with that.
I think so. So it's cool. I mean, I know that you and I talked about it last week and you were kind of concerned. It seems like it wasn't just like a reskin of open world games. It seemed like a Nintendo version. So it looks really exciting and makes me happy that I still have a Wii U lying around somewhere.
I will be interested to play that game.
It's funny though, because I really got to thinking last week, and after looking at Zelda and being like, wow, console games were really cool at one point, I wondered if we should have called this show We Were Console Gamers.
Ha! Yeah, we don't really play much console games anymore, do we?
I really don't. I used to play Nintendo 64 nonstop. I think that was my heyday console, like my most memorable one.
Yeah, for me it was definitely the PlayStation 1 for sure. I played the most of that, I think.
We still obviously started out on PC, right? I mean, playing like sim games and Sub Hunter game.
Age of Empires 1.
Yeah, or all the way back to DOS games too. Consoles weren't a big thing until PlayStation 1 and all that. So
well, the NES.
Oh well, yeah, good
and
point.
Super NES were big, but I didn't have either of those consoles growing up, so.
I didn't have a console in my house until the PlayStation 1, so that's why I attribute it to that.
I had an NES, but it was actually my neighbor's NES, and he got grounded and for like playing games too much or something. It was unclear to me why the NES moved to my house, but it did, and then it was there, and like he and I would play it sometimes, but mostly we kept it because the other guy was being punished or something. And then it eventually turned into my NES when that guy left home for college or whatever.
Well, I say I didn't have the other systems, but there was an Atari and an NES at my grandparents' house. It was just kind of like I was thinking about it, and my console life started with the PS1 at home, and then Nintendo 64. Really,
yeah.
What do they say? To the sea, all things return, and basically now I only play PC again.
It's a pretty good time to be a PC gamer, at least in terms of stuff coming to the PC. If you're willing to engage with the Microsoft Windows 10 store, you could play almost anything that comes out, except for games that are exclusive only to Sony's console and Nintendo stuff, I guess.
In my vision of consoles, exclusives is why you have them, right? Like Nintendo,
sure, you should,
Zelda, or PlayStation used to have Final Fantasy. I guess they don't anymore, but
nope.
But that was the reason for that. And if you didn't have a console, if you read, I read like gaming websites with reviews and stuff like that, and it always seemed like if you didn't have a console and you weren't playing the exclusives, then you were missing out on the best games of the year.
Sure, and that definitely used to be the case. It seems to be less and less the case anymore, and the things or it seems like, at least to me, not fairly inexhaustive search, but the things that do come out on multiple platforms generally end up playing, if not the best, like pretty close to the best on the PC.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's going to be the leader in terms of VR quality, obviously. Like Sony's got their thing, Microsoft's going to have their thing. Everyone's going to have their thing for their VR for their console, but I feel like the PC will still be able to step ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have like best of both worlds, right? You can play all the other things the best, but stuff in the future will also be the best, which is why I've gravitated towards it in the frugalness of the future.
Sure.
Right? Like you can't own everything anymore.
Yeah. Well, children are expensive.
Yeah, but at a certain point...
Houses are expensive.
Yeah, they are. Let me tell you. And oh man, houses. It's hot down there near you, right?
It is a scorcher down here today. Yeah.
I think it is still... We're recording about 8 o'clock, and it is still 95 outside.
Yeah, I haven't gone outside to double check that, but that sounds right to me. It's less than that inside my house right now, but yeah, it is hot today for sure.
You triggered me there when you said houses are expensive because I started thinking about air conditioning.
Don't trigger me, bro.
Well, we don't have AC, so thinking about the cost of that.
It's expensive, but so nice.
Oh man, what was I totally lost it. But well, with consoles though, I don't know if you fell into this trap, and it's something I'm glad I'm not able to do anymore. But like because of the exclusive nature and all that sort of stuff, I always felt like I was missing out on good games. So I would always try to make sure that I had the quote unquote best that a system had to offer. So like, what are the top 10 or 15 games on that system or whatever? And then I have this giant collection of games I don't play because there's way too many of them. Did you ever feel like beyond the games that you knew you were going to like that you had to play the best thing on a system?
No, I never bought like tons of games just to like say I had great games. I would mostly buy the stuff either I knew I was going to like or stuff that I thought I was going to like. That always didn't. Of course, those two didn't always pan out, right? But yeah, I feel like the vast majority of the games that I have either kept around or have bought were at least games that I intended to play. I don't know. There's probably I can count on one hand the number of at least console games that I bought and then didn't end up playing.
Right on.
The PC, that number is different.
I'm not even going to start that number.
Yeah, we know the Steam sales are dangerous, and you can get things for $1. You're just like, and then of course you never play that.
Yeah, that's why you end up with 300 plus games.
I think, yeah, I don't have as many as you, I know, but we both have substantial amount of games on the PC that I think we will never bother to touch.
I hope to touch them at some point, but you're probably right.
I mean, sometimes it's not worth touching them, right? You're like, okay, we bought this game on a lark and it was clearly bad. Like, we don't need to play this.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think I spent, what was the equivalent of $1.50 in Steam crystals or something like that during one of the sales to buy the Orion Prelude, and it was a 4-pack, and I gave it to 3 other people, and we played it once, and it was like, well, this was entertainingly bad.
This was something we did.
Deleted off the system, played it, quote unquote, never talking to it again.
Yeah.
I think though that like there's still a niche for people that want exclusives like Zelda's. So I'll probably usually own a Nintendo system if I can afford it to be able to play new Zelda games because I really like them.
Sure.
But I think there's another like niche that PCs can do them, but consoles do them a little bit better, especially like the 3DS, which would be classics, like classic re-releases. So playing old games like the first Zelda or whatever on your 3DS, it just won't be matched by an emulator on a PC, I don't think.
I think it's possible to match it in an emulator. The problem is often more that getting either the hardware necessary to match it or like the control setup, because like you want to play it with as close to the original controller as possible. And there are USB Nintendo and Super Nintendo controllers out there; those exist. But like, I'm not going to go fiddling around with that stuff. Like I think I have a PlayStation 3 controller hooked up to my computer right now because that was the one I had lying around. So it's harder on a PC. You have to do more work, right?
Certainly, and the convenience factor of being able to just sit down at your TV and play an old game like it was played on your TV, or being on the road and playing a game that you had to play on your TV. You know what I mean?
It's definitely, I can understand why you would want to play those in sort of like a curated environment.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. But other than that, exclusives, classics, I don't see the console market expanding in my life, but it seems based on what I saw at E3 that it is still quite hopping. What's your take on that?
The console market, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, is it? I know that all 3 makers are still in the game, obviously. I don't own a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One.
Neither do I.
And that's the thing. So I don't know many people. Like I owned at one point when Xbox 360 was out and PlayStation 3 were out, I owned both. Or, previous to that, I owned a Nintendo and a Sony, and I had a Sega, and I had it was always kind of like you matched the market. You made sure you had all the consoles if you could, to try and play games while the PC gaming market was kind of flat. It doesn't seem to be the case anymore based on what I know people around me own. But maybe we're not the market for consoles anymore, age-wise.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just people talk so much about wanting to play games. I just want to sit down on my couch and play a game on my, giant TV or whatever. But I don't want to do that anymore. I'm not interested in sitting on my couch and playing a game. If I'm going to sit on my couch, I'd rather watch a movie or, watch TV or something that I can be a little less like engaged with, I guess. If I'm going to engage with something, I enjoy being in front of my computer with like my monitors there and stuff. I don't know. That's just, maybe I've just built myself into that kind of person who doesn't like the sort of couch experience anymore.
Did you ever play RPGs on the couch?
Yeah, I did. And I think I still would. I've played RPGs on my Wii U.
Yeah, I feel like that might be the game type for the couch.
Mm-hmm. A little less directly involved.
Yeah, I mean, you're just random battling. You probably don't need to be the most engaged. Although, the thing that is nice about playing on the PC to me in that situation is, okay, I'm going to do this RPG stuff where I don't have to pay attention. Second monitor.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus your couch where you have your phone, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's I guess the allure of having, the YouTube window or Netflix window open on the second monitor and being able to still play the game on the first monitor is really strong.
The allure is strong.
For sure. Well, Andrew, I know last week you teased a third part to the Handheld Adventures.
Oh, man. And it's a good segue earlier when I was talking about consoles and, being able to play re-releases and stuff like that. Because I did a little bit of that, and that's what got me thinking about what they were useful for. Platforms that were not your PC, and it certainly was enjoyable this last week. I took a little break from Bravely Default and kicked on Kid Icarus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was really fun. They had done like a 3D classic revamp of it, so it It was the game, but they made it like they created a depth of field for it so you could play it in 3D.
Oh, cool.
It was pretty fun. And, you know, it was kind of like, okay, well, this isn't a great game because it's an old game, but it's still fun distraction-wise. I could play it in bed, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice one problem with handhelds versus my phone.
Mm-hmm.
We had this conversation about handhelds versus phones.
Yeah. They seem like they occupy at least some of the same location in, you know, people's gaming minds.
All right, well, I'm going to give you a phone advantage. Clicking the keypad on your handheld in bed in the middle of the night when you're doing it furiously because you got a lot of controls to do, and then you look over and you're like, I'm waking up my wife, and it's not as silent as the phone.
Is it because it was loud or because you were loud?
You mean was I clicking too vigorously?
Or like shaking the bed or something because you were like jamming on that A button or whatever?
After I noticed it, I tried to be quieter. Mm-hmm. It's still quite, I mean, like, okay, so then you're quieter, right? And you notice the room, and then you start tapping buttons, and then it's the loudest sound in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
But it was just funny to like, oh, I guess if I played this on my phone, it might be quieter. There were a couple other things. I'm still going through Bravely Default, but part 3 really came to me because I wanted to talk to you about StreetPass.
Oh, man, yeah. A true 3DS only feature.
3DS only, mobile only feature. I mean, it is the epitome of handhelds, right?
And we might as well call it Japan only. Or Crowded City only.
Or convention only.
Yeah, for us anyway.
I know that I purchased a few games that you don't have for it. So, we should probably do a rundown, guys, because, you know, and that's the gender neutral guys.
Yeah, just like the gender neutral dudes.
Yeah. So StreetPass is a feature. It's exclusive to the 3DS, even though other systems have something, you know, else like similar that they've tried to emulate. But when you take your 3DS out into the world, anytime you pass physically a nearby other 3DS, both 3DSs send a small packet of data to each other, which transfer game information as well as system information to enable you to, quote unquote, meet that person digitally and also give you advantages in games you play, as well as enable you to play very specific games based on this feature.
Right. So it's sort of like, you know, the 3DSs out there in the world will talk to each other when they pass it by in close proximity. I haven't figured out exactly what the distances is, but you got to be pretty close. Like, if you can't see them, it's definitely not close enough, right? Like, you need to be in like a subway car together or standing around in a convention in a line or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it isn't it is not a Wi-Fi enabled feature in terms of like being on a network with someone. It's physically walking past them.
Yeah. And it doesn't take long as far as I can tell to do the transfer, but you do have to be right next to people pretty much. Yeah,
seconds at most, but it is unique in that it's a feature that enables you to play games, and the games are playable without them, but you have to do a lot of walking over multiple days to accomplish the same features because you have to earn coins, and you can only earn coins through walking with your 3DS. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, which is weird. Not what you want to do when you're out for a jog.
No. So the system comes with a few games. One of them is like it's a puzzle game where you get puzzle pieces from the people that you pass. Another one where you are assisted in fighting your way through a dungeon from the people that you pass. And is that all the standard ones? And then there's the 2 add-on ones, which was the combat with like it's kind of like Risk.
Yeah, like armies fighting each other.
And then another one that was like the Haunted Mansion, but with like Tetris tiles. And then after that, they added 2 more, which were the fishing one where they give you bait.
Isn't there a plant one?
A plant one, yeah, that's one of the original ones. Also, you're right. Where you grow plants. That one's the most RPG like because you have to like level up your plants and then breed them, and then I mean it's almost Pokemon-ish. And then there's a zombie one where you get weapons to fight against zombies. So all in all, I think there are there's 8, maybe technically 9, because that one dungeon game is 2 games.
Yeah, if you beat it, you can restart on like a more difficult version.
So if you own all of them, that's 9 games.
To be fair, none of them take very long to play.
So this is the beginning of my delve into the StreetPass experience and why I have waned on it. Because they don't feel like they take long to play. But if you want to play all these games optimally, which you should, because it takes a lot of time and effort to get street passes from people, unless you're at a convention.
Sure.
And even if you're at a convention, then you're street passing people so quickly that you need to play the games. Otherwise, you're losing street passes, which means you're not playing your games.
So I guess there's a limit to the number of street passes you can hold at one time. I think it's 10.
10 street passes at a time. So technically 20, because you can use 10 and hold 10 at the same time. But 20 people at a convention, it goes pretty quickly. The games themselves, the puzzle one takes a few minutes,
The puzzle one takes a few seconds. You just take the first available piece, place it, you're done.
Here's the thing. So just starting at the beginning of the process, to get your 10 street passes, you have to go to your plaza gate. Okay, well, there's a few seconds. Then, even if you turn off a lot of the extra superfluous information that each street pass gives you, you have to wait for 10 people to walk up, say hello, tell you their name, and walk through your gate. Then you got to go back, and you got to go back into, let's say, the puzzle game. Okay, now you're in the puzzle game. And then you have to wait for all 10 people to walk through the puzzle game again and hand you a piece one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
That alone, right there, probably took about 6 to 8 minutes for that game.
Okay.
Now start adding in 9 other games, or 8 other games.
Yeah, it's something to do while you're waiting in line.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if we've been over the fact that I'm extremely OCD and require myself to play things optimally. I think we did during Bravely Default.
Yeah, I kind of want to point out that this is pressure you're putting on yourself here is your own fault. Right? I mean, you feel like you've waned on these games where I still think it's fun. I'm going through the second time through the dungeon, right? And I don't know, I just mess around with it and I hit go, and if I don't bother to play the 10, I expect that I'll do it like once a day, and if I get to go through them more than once a day, that's great. If not, oh well.
Am I right that you don't own any of the extra games? You just have the 2 base games?
No, I did not own any of the extra games.
Okay, so my takeaway from all of this has been, on the Boston trip, decided that I would not play anything except for the puzzle game and one other game. My experience changed immeasurably.
It was much better?
Oh, man. What they didn't put out there was, hey, here are all these Street Pass games you can play. Maybe don't play them all at the same time.
I suppose that makes sense. Just focus on 1 or 2.
Because, I mean, if I play, let's say there's the plant game. If I play the puzzle one, I get all my puzzles. I'm already 10 minutes in. Then the plant one, if I want to do anything more than let people in, again, watch 10 people walk through, do this little thing. It takes about 10 minutes just to do that part of the game, just the introductory part of the game where you gain all the things from your street pass. If you want to get into the game and really play it and figure out how to do missions and all that, you're looking at another 10 minutes. You're already half an hour in, you played 2 games.
You just don't have as much free time as you used to, Andrew. That's really the crux of the whole argument, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's an interesting system that I think could have been improved a lot by realizing how long things take and getting down to, I guess, maybe my argument about Street Pass games and handhelds in general. Function over form. They took these games and they were like, okay, well, they need to be Super Nintendo-fied. So every single time we got to see all the Miis and they've got to do their cutesy thing and they've got to perform the exact same actions they do in every other game, which is they all have to walk in and you have to get your prize from each 10 people. Whereas you could play all 9 of these games if they decided function instead of form, and it was, bam, here's your 10 items. Forget all those people.
Yeah.
Move into your game. Forget about the long loads where it shows you all this fun, fancy stuff. You know what I mean?
There's definitely arguments to be made that Nintendo over tutorializes and over, sort of gives you introduction and stuff to everything. I think that in general they do that all the time. With every single game that they make, almost without exception, right? If you played, have you played the Wii U Mario? Was it Mario 3D world, I think.
Yeah.
Did you notice that like maybe the first 4 worlds of the game pose no challenge whatsoever?
Yeah, World 4, I think, is when we started having issues.
Yeah, and like even playing co-op like I did with my roommate a while ago, and it was almost no problem for the majority of the levels. And then, once we got past some of the, like, to the later levels, yeah, we started dying because, there's a tricky jump here, or there's, like, one part that's, like, kind of tough if you're playing as a certain character. And then, once you, quote, beat the game or whatever, and you can unlock the more difficult, like, extra stages at the end, and then some of those start getting tough until you get to the last one, which is, really, really hard. Why didn't they spread that out? Why wasn't it hard from, World 5 to World 8? And then, by the end of World 8, you have a big challenge instead of making it, like, actually pretty easy all the way through to World 8 and then the last level being, like, really hard.
I think that you're right. That's a common thing where it just ramps up into insanity. Was that the same game that they introduced Captain Toad?
Yes. Yeah.
I really liked those missions a lot.
The Toad missions were cool. There was an entire game of Captain Toad because people liked it so much.
I mean, it's on my wish list for maybe when some extra cash comes in.
Win some cash and time.
Yeah, and time.
Yeah, that's a great game, but I just wish that the difficulty was more evenly paced, right? Like the first 4 worlds, they're not teaching you anything new. Oh, they introduced like this is the cat suit in like the second level or the first level, right? And then it's just like, here's things you can do with the cat suit. It's like, you're not, like, you could have taught me that in 3 levels instead of 3 worlds.
Well, and the other problem they have is that sometimes they seem to not let it go. Where like, okay, now every single time you get this cat suit, right, we're going to remind you that it's a cat suit.
And then you got to run up a wall because you're a cat.
Or in other games, and I'm going to use the cat suit as an example in other games. And then I'll follow that up. So, like, the cat suit will pop up. It'll be like, you've got a cat suit. Make sure to hit A, and then it'll tell you what the cat suit does again, and then you'll have to hit A again to get out of this screen. So we're going to waste 10 seconds every time you pick up this item. They realize they do it because there's a clip in that new Zelda game where they're like, hey, the first time you pick up a bomb, it pops up this screen. And then after you pick it up the first time, it doesn't pop up the screen. You go to the encyclopedia if you have a problem remembering. And the whole room that was watching like erupted in applause.
Yeah. Exactly. Nintendo is one of the worst about that stuff. And I feel like other game makers have figured it out, right? They're like, hey, we realized you've picked this up before. We're not going to show you the help tip for how to work with bombs, right? It's not just the first time you turn this game on. This is the 50th time you've turned it on. You know what the bomb does.
Right. So I wish that option existed with StreetPass, or be like, I've done this 50 times. Please stop introducing me in every single StreetPass game to all these characters. Just give me the 10 weapons that all the guys that I StreetPassed gave me in one big screen so I can see what they all gave me and I can optimally just finish this in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I can play more than one.
Yeah. That's unfortunately was not part of the design at that time, sadly.
And they're never going to change it. So at this point,
nope.
I did the experiment on the way to Boston. I played the one game plus puzzle, and I found it infinitely more fun. So that will unfortunately be my strategy. It'll hurt me, especially with Comic-Con coming up. Because there's no way that I'm going to sit there on the con floor playing StreetPass for 45 minutes just to get rid of 10 passes, right?
Yeah, it's not worth it.
It's not worth it at all. So it's going to hurt me. I mean, physically, like to look at all those street passes and throw them away on the other games. But I think I'm going to pick my game that I want to play at Comic-Con and get that and some puzzle pieces.
Focus your sweet goal of like doing the best at that game.
Yeah, exactly. And then beat it. And then I'll move on to the next one for next year. And I'll have 8 more years of Comic-Cons before I have to buy more Street Pass games.
See, there you go. Done, man. So good.
Well, you played your handheld this week, too. I think that we got you excited with part 1 and 2.
Yeah, I remember that I had a 3DS through some of these discussions with you. And I was out of town for a wedding this past weekend and on an airplane for a little bit. Actually, at one point on the airplane for far too long.
Oh, man. I saw some tweets about this. Did they ever figure out and tell you what was wrong?
I never got the exact story about what thing exactly was broken.
Tell the people what happened to you.
So, I'm in San Diego, and we got to the airport nice and early. We're flying from San Diego to Oakland, which is not a long trip. It's an hour and a half, maybe, plane flight. And it's, nice, quick Southwest. We got our tickets early. We were in boarding group A. Everything was going good. We were there in plenty of time. I got a bagel, sat down and had breakfast. Chilled, read a few chapters of a book, played a 3DS game that I was playing called Fire Emblem, which we'll circle back around to after this story. We were just chilling. They line everyone up. They get us on the plane. It was a continuation flight, so the flight had come from somewhere else, and there were some people already on it. Some people had gotten off, and we were getting on, that kind of thing. So, we got, my girlfriend and I sat down, and we loaded up, our books and whatnot, and she was tired, so she was, trying to nap. And they take us, they're like, close the doors. All right, we do. Great. Get out onto the taxiway. They're like, okay, we're next in line for takeoff. So, flight attendants, whatever, do all the stuff. They make sure everyone's tray tables are good and whatever. And then it's like, all right. And then we get out to, the part where I couldn't see exactly because I was in the aisle seat. But, we were out somewhere on the tarmac, not on the runway yet, but out, away from the gate. And the plane is just kind of sitting there. We're like, okay, what's going on? Shouldn't, he said we were cleared, this doesn't feel clear. We're just hanging out. Maybe there's an emergency. They had to have someone else land, or the pattern is weird or something. Airplane stuff happens. That's fine.
But radio silence from the cockpit, right? You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, just silence. Everyone's, sitting and doing nothing because you're not supposed to do things while takeoff is happening. So I pull my book out, because whatever, I don't care about that. And we're just, waiting. And the cockpit comes on. It's like, well, folks, this is your captain. We have a little...
But it's been...
Oh, yeah, it's been like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We've been sitting for a long time. And he's like, well, this is your captain. We got a warning light on here. So just give us a few minutes. We're going to see if it's something we can reset here, communicate with the ground tower and everything, and we'll get right back to you folks. Five minutes.
Warning lights, and I'm right out. I'm like, seatbelt off, get me off this plane. No warning lights. Nope.
Well, I work in aviation-related industry.
So you know that planes shouldn't be able to fly.
A little bit, but I also know that warning lights happen for dumb things that are not safety critical, right? It's like, oh, there's a warning light for the electronics on the light behind this button is out. Warning light. Okay. That's not, we can fly with that one. It's fine.
Is there a warning light for the warning light button being out?
I wouldn't put it past them. It's possible.
Oh, man. So 20 minutes.
So, another 10 minutes passes, right? Even though he said it was only going to be 5. And it gets to the pilot's like, okay, folks, it really looks like this isn't something we can reset here. We're going to have to go back to the gate. And immediately you hear the whole plane's like, oh, come on, rah. People so fed up with it and everything. Because, we've been waiting like 45 minutes at this point or something out on the tarmac. Luckily, it's not like the air conditioning was off or anything, so it wasn't like getting super hot and crowded or whatever. But no one likes to sit on a plane for longer than you have to. It's horrible. So then we go back to the gate. They're like, all right, everyone stay seated. Now that we're back at the gate, we can do some different stuff that we weren't allowed to do while we were out in the field. So he's like, we're going to try resetting everything. It's like, okay, did he literally just say we're going to turn it off and turn it back on again and that's going to fix it? Come on.
Yeah, man.
Does anyone actually think that's going to work? That's not how machines work, dude. Come on.
It is when you're telling your parents how to fix something.
Right. And it does work sometimes, so okay, whatever. And I hear the prison next to me is like, I don't know if I want to go on this flight. Right? It's like if you turn it off and then turns it back on and it fixes it, do you really want to stay on there? So, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. They'll see that. They turn everything off, all the air stops and everything.
20 more minutes.
Plane comes back on. Another 5-10 minutes passes. Well, folks, all right, we're going to have to get a maintenance tech out here. That didn't fix the issue. We'll give you an update as soon as we can. Guy will come out real soon. Should be no problem.
I like your captain voice.
They try to be very calm, They don't want anyone getting up in arms about the whole situation. Because obviously everyone's mad. So it's been like well over an hour at this point. And the flight attendants are like, okay, people, you can get up now. We're going to let you, move around the cabin. And then maybe the maintenance tech guy comes out another 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, and they're like, yeah, we're going to have to fix it. We're not sure what's going to happen. So, we'll have to radio to the tower and control and talk with them and see what the solution can be for this problem. So then they open the doors, right? They're like, you guys can go back in the terminal. go to the bathroom out there, get food, whatever.
That's the worst of signs.
Yeah, it's a bad sign. Real bad sign. So it's like, okay, well, we'll see. So now we're like, an hour and a half or 2 hours delayed at this point. We're, okay, so hang out a little longer. We didn't elect to go get up, but they were giving people water and stuff in the plane while you were hanging out. They're like, yeah, okay, folks, it looks like we're going to have to go steal a different plane for you guys. This is not something we're going to be able to fix soon enough. And we'll hope to be able to get you guys on a different flight that is going to land in about 15 minutes. So we're going to need everyone to get all your stuff and get off the plane and go over to this other gate. We're like, oh my God. Okay, here we go.
And I'm sure there's plenty of room for all of you.
Oh yeah, there wasn't another flight scheduled to be at that gate or anything. Oh wait, yes, there was, exactly. And they were all lined up and stuff, everything already. Nope. Yep, all those people now getting, who knows what happened to them. I wasn't paying attention. And then they told us the gate that they told us was the wrong gate. It was actually the gate next to that gate that they wanted us at. Man, it was just a whole thing. And because it was a continuation flight, right? And they'd already taken all our boarding passes and stuff. How do you reboard people, Andrew?
Hand stamps?
Nope. Pull out your government issued ID. We're going to check people in one at a time. Got to check everyone's ID. Make sure you're on the list. Oh my God, it was a whole thing. Oh, we're just going to honor system that you guys were in the same order that you were before. No one steal each other's seats. Oh my God, it was a whole nightmare. It was just the worst.
Yeah, I'm sure there wasn't a gigantic mob just trying to get through.
Thankfully, they did attempt to compensate us somewhat. We got a $100 travel voucher for Southwest, and the stewardesses were like, after we did finally eventually get in the air, the stewardesses were coming around, and the stewards also, the people that work there. And you're not supposed to call them stewardesses anymore. I think that's
flight attendant.
The flight attendants, that's correct.
Although even flight attendant, I think, is now outdated. I'm going to have to ask.
No, the people that were handing out, the staff that were handing out drinks and whatnot, it's like, can I get a Diet Coke? She's like, sure, do you want anything else, honey? And you're like, yeah, okay. They were giving people, like, up and down the rows, everyone was getting free drinks. So that was pretty nice. So, it was all right. Obviously, everyone felt a lot better once they got a drink and we were actually in the air. And, of course, when the plane lands, everyone claps and they're just like, get us off the plane. It was actually really funny. The captain was there, the head flight attendant or whoever that was talking over the intercom once you land. It's like, welcome to whatever, it's like, here's the doors. And then she's like, and now get out. I thought that was pretty good.
Everybody's just done.
So as a consequence of all that, I had a lot of time to play Fire Emblem, which was pretty fun.
Which Fire Emblem?
So it's Fire Emblem Birthright.
Is that the newest one that just came out?
I believe it's one of the newest ones, yeah.
Okay. I heard something about this one, and you basically play, depending on which game you choose, as one side or the other side of a conflict?
Correct. So the game is structured like...
well, we should talk about Fire Emblem first. What is Fire Emblem?
Sure. Fire Emblem is a strategy RPG.
Tactical?
Yeah, tactical. Sure. I don't know what the genre is known as all the time, but I think, like an SRPG.
Yeah.
It's from Japan, so it has some Japanese flavor to it. And this version in particular has a lot of extra Japanese flavor to it because I'm playing as the sort of Japanese flavored house in that universe. So
a tactical RPG, you kind of build your team like you would in a normal RPG, like we talked about a couple episodes ago. But instead of a battle system where you fight one enemy or two enemies and you cast spells and you're just sort of staring at the screen as in a side view as they stand next to each other, kind of like old-timey muskets, right? Where they just sort of stood in a line and shot at each other.
Sure.
Tactical RPGs, in the battle, your characters move around on a battlefield in squares or however they do it.
It's usually a grid, and so
system.
that you'll have each. Usually, you control more. They tend to call them units, so it's more like war themed, where like you have your units and the enemy's units, and there's usually a lot more units than would be in a typical sort of RPG game. So you might have like 8, 9, 10 guys or guys and gals and whoever, creatures and whatever stuff on your side, cannons and artillery sometimes, who knows. And you may be facing a lot more than that even on the enemy side. And there will be hills sometimes. Your characters can move slower when they're going up a hill, and there will be line of sight, and each attack has different ranges, and all your characters have tons of different statistics that govern all the things that they can do, how fast they can move, when they move in the turn order, when their spells will go off, all kinds of... There's like a lot of variables.
Yeah, there's a ton. But you still have the RPG elements that we talked about where you level up and you have all sorts of other stuff going on, and it's mainly about the story. And Fire Emblem is one of those ones that's uniquely known for its story. So in this one, most of the Fire Emblems are about a war, but in this one, it's kind of their first time that they've split the game in half, and you play as either side, right?
I assume it's the first time they've split the game in half. I don't know. I haven't played every entry in the series, but at least in this one, there are two sort of big noble families or kingdoms that sort of control parts of this world. They are Nor, Nohr, and Hoshido, which is spelled how it sounds. Hoshido is sort of Japanese themed and kind of light side, and Nor is kind of medieval Europe themed and is sort of like the dark side. So it's like the white and the black, and they fight each other. And the main character, is a child from Hoshido who gets kidnapped and taken to Nor, or is it the other way around?
I don't know. You're the one that played it.
No, you must be. So you're a child of the king of Hoshido and the queen of Nor, and you were raised in either. It's basically the opposite. So
okay, so who's Jon Snow's mother in this one?
I don't know. The storyline is complicated for a lot of reasons, but mostly because, like you were talking about, how they split the game in two, right? Basically, there's two different parallel stories going on, depending on which version of the game you buy. Almost like Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue kind of thing, where there's different Pokemon on each one. In this game, there's Fire Emblem Birthright, where you play as the Hoshido family, and Fire Emblem Conquest, where you play as the Nor family. And there actually are even, like, the games are not just you choose to play as different families, right? The battles are completely different. The maps are different. So you're basically playing two separate games there.
I mean, it's totally worth it. If no one's ever played a Fire Emblem game, or another game like Final Fantasy Tactics, or...
Final Fantasy Tactics is so good.
Or I think Jeanne d'Arc's up there too. It's a really good game.
I know you like that one a lot, yeah.
It's not as good because the story's not as good, but they did a whole lot of anime cutscenes that was like crazy amount of work.
Yeah, that stuff is cool.
And the system was still good. And the characters were cool. These types of games are really engrossing, I think.
Yeah, they're really, really fun. And because you can play them kind of in smaller chunks, because, right, like once the battle is over, you could stop and save, and then you're good to go. And you can sort of guess how long the battles will be once you've played it a little bit. So it was great for this trip. I was able to play quite a bit on that plane. People who have never played a Fire Emblem game before, I might recommend that you don't choose to play as the Conquest version, the Nor family. From what I understand, although I haven't played it, is that the game is quite a bit harder, intentionally. Like, that's sort of the hardcore pros only version of the game, and the Hoshido version is meant to be sort of the newer to Fire Emblem version of the game. So the Fire Emblem has a lot of stuff that fans of the series like, where like the characters that you recruit to your army along the way can be killed permanently in battle and then are just gone, or items that your characters are using, like their swords and stuff, will break, and then your character is running around without a sword, or it has limited uses for the magics that you're casting, and then the book doesn't work anymore. So those sort of systems exist in the game, and some of the versions of the game have more of those systems or less, depending on stuff like difficulty level and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So it can be pretty punishing in terms of, if you want to have, like, quote, using air quotes over here, like a perfect game, right? If you want to get through every battle without anyone dying and stuff like that, it can actually take a pretty long time. You'll have to play battles multiple times because you'll get tricked by something, or your character will just get killed out of surprise. and then you'll have lost all your time, which sucks.
Man, I got trolled so hard in Bravely Default.
Oh man, what happened?
I was trying to take on some of these bosses in Narendi, and it was level 25, and I'm level 30, so I was like, okay, cool. So I'll be able to take this thing on. And the boss is just doing physical attacks, and I'm defending them well, so I started to get a little bit more confident. I let my damage dealers kind of do a little bit more brave actions, and then all of a sudden, it has this boss had this thing where it stole your default actions, and so my healer and my spellcaster, which were defaulting so that I could get stuff done while my other guys were on cooldown, he stole all their actions, and then he cast Blizzaga like 8 times and killed my entire team.
Man, what a really trolly spell. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was uber trolling. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So you want me to save scum is what you're telling me?
No, it's an easy way to counter that. Just spend your turns normally.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that happened to me the other day. It was just like, I'm still playing that game. I still like it, but man, sometimes they surprise you with some stuff, and you're just kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, that wasn't fair. I know that I'm over-leveled for this, and I still got killed instantly.
I did have an experience similar to that on one of the maps in this Fire Emblem game. I don't remember where it was like a desert or something, like a ruins in a desert, and my little army of people was chasing after someone who was running away from us, and then he sort of left behind his troops to defend these ruins, and so we had to get through them to continue pursuing whoever this guy was I was after, whose name I've completely forgotten. And so a lot of times they'll have unique features of each map, like, oh, on this map there's desert terrain, and that slows you down and makes it really hard to move. Or then there'll be these wind. So on this map, the feature was there was some desert tiles and stuff where it was hard to move around, but also there was wind. And so as you were walking down certain places, there'd be these gusts of wind that you could see on the map. You'd have a big overhead view of the map where you could see everything, which the games would be impossible if they didn't have that. And you see these sort of lines showing you the direction the winds are blowing. And at the end of every turn, units and stuff would be moved along those lines a certain number of spaces. I never exactly figured out how it determined how far you would go. Basically your guys would slide along the direction of the wind every turn. And then every couple turns the wind would change directions. So maybe going from across to going up and down, or maybe reversing the directions they were blowing, stuff like that. And you could, on your turn, you could move normally in the wind areas. It would just be, then at the end, right, you might slide extra distance from where you were, so you might not end up where you thought you were.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that was trolly as heck. Holy smokes, it was annoying. 'Cause you set your guys up, do you want to arrange kind of a defensive perimeter or something so that people can't attack your healers or your low characters? Nope. Yeah, they're just going to blow all your guys over here into the corner, so they're all stacked up next to each other. The enemy can hit you with their artillery, and you just get destroyed. It was, man, I died. So many people died on that. It's just let's group them all up right in the corner here and drop a big fireball on them.
So Birthright gets your worth your time review, huh?
Yeah, that game was fun. I don't think I beat it yet, but I'm pretty close, I think. It's not clear exactly how far. I have the difficulty set low so that my characters, if they die in battle, don't die permanently, so I can keep using them even if they die, which in the harder difficulties, they're dead, they're just gone. And
then you start getting down people and battles get harder because you don't have enough people and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or your characters you'll recruit new characters, but they're so low level, and then leveling them up becomes really difficult, and they'll die a lot, and then it's hard to catch up if you're behind, and you get into a horrible cycle there.
Well, I guess here's the real question: is will you keep your 3DS out long enough to beat the game?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll try. I'll try and go back to it again. It's pretty fun. I'm interested to see where the story goes.
Did you start it on your trip, or were you picking it back up?
I had started it before. I think I was on maybe chapter 8 or something.
Oh, wow.
But I got quite farther, yeah. I got to chapter 20 or something. So I think I'm fairly close to the end at this point.
So the theory holds true, I think. Just hard to remember to keep your 3DS out, and then you end up having to pick games back up months later.
Yeah. It turns out you are a good catalyst for that kind of stuff.
Well, it's nice that we both got back into playing some 3DS games again, and I'm really happy with it. I think that getting in bed at night, I play half hour of Bravely Default, you play half hour of Fire Emblem, and then you read for a half hour. It's a nice little hour cooldown at the end of the day, So
yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, it's really nice. A nice way to just kind of sort of clear your mind and take a load off right before bed. It's nice.
Yeah, and it's nice. The other thing that's cool that I noticed about it, I would do the same thing. I'd spend an hour where I was like falling asleep. But the first 40 minutes of it were just me trolling Facebook and like Twitter and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, over the course of the day, I'd already seen most of it anyway.
Right, yeah.
Or if I hadn't, none of it really mattered.
Yeah.
So I get to put my phone away and I forget about it because I want to, accomplish something in a game instead.
Yeah. I have tried to purposefully limit my phone and screen usage in bed. I say screen, but I mostly just mean the phone.
Well, that's why I do the half hour of reading after, but it was nice to realize the other day after a couple of days of Bravely Default at home after getting back from the trip, just be like, oh, wow, cool. I don't stare at my phone right before bed much anymore. So I guess it's a change for the positive.
Yeah, and plus you can, move it around the house. Oh, well, I have to go do some stuff in the kitchen. I can go, take it over there and set it off to the side, come back and forth to it, especially since a lot of these games are turn-based. You can start up a turn and then make one move and then go stir the sauce or whatever and come back.
I don't want to give people the idea that handhelds are only for turn-based games because
that's true.
There are plenty of games that are not turn-based, especially on the Vita, and many on the 3DS as well. But JJ and I think you and I tend to gravitate towards that type of game on a handheld. Personally,
I think I just gravitate towards that type of game in general, to be honest with you.
That sums it up, man. I think that we've espoused the benefits of handhelds for 3 weeks in a row. I'm tapped out. That's handhelds part 3 of 3. No extensions this time.
Okay. Well, I think we did some good public service here. People, if you have those handhelds, pick them up, dust them off. You should play them once in a while.
I guess maybe it should have been called 3DS part 1, 2, and 3, because I don't think we gave fair stuff to we'll have to do a Vita thing later when I ever actually find my Vita.
You lost it?
No, I know where it is, but I just mean find it in a metaphorical way.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have in the past taken that with me on like long trips and stuff and found that to be enjoyable as well.
That's definitely a system. I mean, I have every Final Fantasy game that I can on that system just because I liked playing Final Fantasy games on PlayStation.
Yeah.
But that's one of those systems that I was talking about where I looked into, okay, well, I have all those Final Fantasy games. What are the best games on this system? And then I read through the top 10 on a website and all that sort of stuff and kind of curated it. And I don't know why I did that, but I just felt like if I owned it, I might as well try them.
Yeah, I definitely mentioned to other people before in a previous episode, but everyone should go play Persona 4 Golden on the Vita. That's the best version of that game.
Well, all those best games are still sitting there waiting for us to talk about them once I play them.
Yeah.
JJ, should we get out of here and go play some games?
Well, but before that, Andrew, why don't you tell the people how they can contact us?
Oh, yeah, you're right. We should do that. Well, I don't know. Facebook, maybe? Do people go to the Facebook still?
Yeah, I think we have a Facebook. It's We Were Gamers on Facebook.
Facebook.com/WeWereGamers. You could email us if you still use email at podcast@WeWereGamers.com. We have a website, WeWereGamers.com.
Yeah, check it out. We got post the podcasts on there. They're there somewhere.
Yeah, you can find them under WeWereGamers.com/podcast, and then there's a whole bunch of them there. You can subscribe on iTunes or Google Play if you don't want to go to a website.
And if you listen to us through those, give us a review, Drop in and post a little star rating and be like, man, these guys aren't that bad.
Yeah.
5 stars.
Yeah. Or, whatever you feel.
No, just 5 stars, yeah. If you feel anything other than 5 stars, don't leave a review. That's my opinion. I'm kidding.
Yeah. We tweet sometimes, too.
Yeah.
Or we even Instagram once every couple months. So you could find us at either of those at We Were Gamers also.
Give us a follow. Give us a thumb up.
Right on. Well, I'm Andy, and that's JJ, and we're going to go continue melting in the Southern California heat. But this was We Were Gamers.
Bye, everybody.